This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
The following episode of Charlotte Cooks is brought to you by Central Piedmont Community College and viewers like you. Thank you.
Do you know what a spatch-cocked chicken is? Well, stay tuned. On Charlotte Cooks, you'll find out. Hi there, welcome to this edition of Charlotte Cooks. I'm really glad you're with us today. We are going to be roasting chickens. I'm going to show you two ways of roasting chickens. We're going to make them uber delicious by adding a compound butter to them. I'll show you how to make a compound butter. We're going to put some stuff inside. I'm going to put some stuff underneath them. We're going to make them really, really delicious. If you've never roasted a whole chicken before, the method is really very simple. And it's a really good idea sometimes to roast a whole chicken, and then at the beginning of the week and the rest of the week, you can usually eat things off of it. If your family eats a whole chicken, that's great, but always save those bones so you can make soup and stock out of them. So one of the first things we're going to do to get started with our compound butter, we're going to be using some herbs, some fresh herbs. And the fresh herbs are whatever it is that you like to use. We're going to use a little bit of rosemary, oregano, and thyme today. And I'm just going to show you how to put together a compound butter. A compound butter is very simple to make. And it's really a wonderful thing to use because you can use it in a lot of different areas in your kitchen and not just for this particular chicken dish. And the way you would make your compound butter is you just go ahead and you take your butter. The butter needs to be soft so it actually will smash into the bottom of your bowl. So just leave it out at room temperature. You don't want to put this in the microwave because you don't want it melted. You want it soft. There's a big difference between melted butter and soft butter. All right, so we want it soft. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take some herbs now. And the herbs I'm going to use are some thyme, fresh thyme. And fresh thyme is really a lot of fun. Well, you know, it depends on your definition of fun. But you can take the stalk of the thyme and hold the tender tip and run your fingers back, and you loosen all the leaves. And this is how you can get some beautiful fresh thyme very quickly into your butter without having to actually take it and chop it, separate stems, and all that other kind of stuff. So, a couple of things going back and forth with that. What else I have here is some fresh oregano. Fresh oregano is a beautiful flavor. And so for the fresh oregano, I would take it and I will just chop it up really, really fine with my knife. And depending on how fine you want it, depending on how fine you're going to get it, okay, just chop it up. Doesn't have to be super fine. And once again, we're just going to mix this into the butter. So you have the idea about how to cut up the herbs. I like using the fresh herbs in this a lot more than I like using dried herbs, mostly because I think that the flavor and the aroma is a whole lot more pungent and just delightful. So when you cut the herbs, you get the beautiful aroma of the herbs, and also when you're baking it, oh my goodness, the roasting of the chicken with this under the skin is just really lovely. So you see now I'm taking this and I'm just going to work this butter and get all these herbs mixed into the butter, okay? Just get it all mixed in nice and smooth so it's evenly distributed. And this is where your soft butter really comes in handy. If your butter's too hard, it's not going to do this easily. And if your butter is hard, just mash it up against the side of the bowl until it softens up. And just mix it all in until it's nice and smooth. Okay, so I have some that's already done on the side that we're going to use today, and you can see these herbs have been chopped up just a little bit finer than the other. Another thing that we're going to use for our roasted chicken is we've got to get our pans ready. So we're going to do chickens two ways. We're going to roast the whole chicken. We're going to put a little bit of flavoring inside of the chicken, and we're going to also put it into a pan. Now when you're selecting your pan, you want to get a pan that has a little bit of depth to it, because we're going to add a little chicken stock to the bottom of this, and also we're going to set this chicken up on a bed of carrots, onions, and celery. This in our world, our cooking world, is called mirepoix, and you usually use a ratio of about 50% onions, 25% celery, 25% carrots. Now, is that ratio exact? Do you have to measure? No, you can totally eyeball this. And so you're just going to take your vegetables, you're going to chop them up, and then you're going to actually just spread them across the bottom of your roasting pan. You don't want to have too much. This is basically just there to, number one, add flavor to the chicken stock you're going to add to this to keep the stuff from burning on the bottom of the pan. And you are going to use this to keep the chicken from sitting down in all of that juice. And so as the chicken cooks, he's going to be sitting up and it's going to get nice and cooked and nice and brown on the bottom as well as on the top. The other thing we're going to add to this is a little bit of chicken stock. Now you can use water if you wanted. I'm going to use a little bit of chicken stock, and the reason I'm using chicken stock is because you can always strain this liquid out at the end of your roasting and use it to make a beautiful sauce. You don't have to, but you always could, okay? We're going to select some chickens. Now these are about 2-pound birds. Now you can see how the birds are laying out flat. These are pretty much just out of the package. If you were to take this bird and stick it in here just like this, it's going to look really, really funky on you when you take it out of the oven and start to serve it. And so there's a couple things we like to do to our chicken. First of all, when you're selecting your chicken in the store, you want to pick a chicken that looks fresh. You don't want a chicken that looks dried out. You want to look at the wingtips and make sure that the wingtips are nice and pink, and then you want to take them and you want to tuck them underneath his shoulders, pretty much like he's putting his hands behind his head. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to open up your chicken and you're going to look inside of him. If you've got big fat caps in here, you're going to pull this out. You're going to throw this away. Okay? You're also going to look in there and you're going to see sometimes there's bags of necks, gizzards, hearts, livers inside of there. We don't want to cook that inside of our bird, and so we want to pull that stuff out. You also want to lift up underneath the back here where the neck is and make sure there's nothing in there. Sometimes they'll stick something in there, maybe a liver or a gizzard or a heart. So just because you don't see it in this hole, turn it around and look here where the neck is and make sure there's nothing inside of there as well. And so the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our fingers and we're going to get up under here, under the breast, and you see this little membrane that's under here? We're going to break that membrane. And so why are we doing this? What we are doing is we are trying to separate the skin from the meat underneath, okay? Be careful not to rip your skin when you do this. It's really easy to get this skin ripped right up here at the top if you're not really careful. So stick your fingers in here, and you're going to, let me see if I can get you to see what this looks like now. You're going to get the breast in, get down under here. See how I'm getting all the way down in there? You're going to have to come on both sides of the breast. You can't just go from one side to the other side because the skin is connected in that cartilage that comes down in between the breast. Loosen it up underneath there, and then get your fingers in over here underneath the legs, and loosen this up over here as well, underneath the leg and the thigh. One of the reasons we do this is because separating the skin from the meat of the chicken, when you roast it, the skin will become crispy. And if you're as big a fan, as I am, of crispy chicken skin, you're going to want to do this. Okay, so now that we've loosened this all up, remember, we've got our compound butter here, okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of this compound butter so I don't contaminate the whole thing. I'm going to take it out with a knife, plop that in my hand. Stick it underneath this skin. And this is the good part, is why this butter is soft, is because then when it's under the skin, you can mash it around like this, okay? Get it all underneath there. Now what this is going to do, your hands are going to get goopy, so, you know, just get used to washing them later. What this does is as the bird is cooking now, the bird is going to be basted with this beautiful herb butter. And then, when the bird is done, you have the herbs and the butter flavor left behind on the meat, and all the excess oil and grease and everything from the butter can leak right out of the bird and goes into the bottom of the pan. Okay? So, when you get that under there, just mash it around, and we're not going to worry about this butter being on the skin too much because I'm going to show you. We're going to put a little oil on it. We're going to use that as a little bit of a basting on the skin. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to truss the bird. And basically what trussing means is we're going to tie him up so he comes back together. You see how he's all sort of splayed out everywhere here? Well, we don't want him to cook this way, because if we did, he would cook this way, and when you put him on a platter, he would look this way, and people would look at it and go, But not only that, it's not going to cook evenly, okay? So I'm going to cut a piece of string, piece of butcher's twine. Okay, so I take the string, I cut it, and I hold it in half, okay? I take the loop and I come down to the little legs here. Lift the leg up, make a little loop. Take the other leg and cross the other leg over. So we have our little legs crossed. Okay, come on, cross your legs, there you go. Make another little loop, okay? So once the legs are crossed, we're going to take this, we're going to bring it down, and we're going to tie the wings, get it underneath the wings. We're going to tie it down here by the neck. Now see how, watch, when I pull the string, how it pulls the bird up? That's what we want to see happen, because what's happening now is the bird is being brought into a nice, tight, compact unit instead of being all over the place. He's going to be in a nice, compact unit. I'm going to lift his breast up here. There we go. And make him look really good. So now we're going to lift this bird up very carefully, very gently. We're going to put him in our prepared roasting pan. And the next thing we get to do is season this skin with a little bit of salt and pepper. You don't need anything else but salt and pepper. But before I do that, we've got a little butter on the skin, and that's a good thing. But I'm also going to take a little bit of oil and put a little bit of oil on the skin. And the reason I do this is because it helps the seasonings that I'm putting on the skin. Remember, I love crispy chicken skin. We are going to have some nice flavor to that crispy chicken skin, okay? You can see the butter underneath the skin, and that's just, you know, okay, because it's going to all melt out of there. Now, a couple of different kinds of salts that I like to use. This is what's called a Maldon salt. A Maldon salt will have a beautiful pyramid shape to it, which is really kind of neat. And when you put it on the chicken skin, it will have a nice, big, crunchy, flaky salt, which, you know, chicken skin fans will find that really delightful, okay? Just a little bit. Now you see one's white and one's yellow. This one has a little bit of a lemon flavor to it, which is really kind of fun. So lemon and chicken, how can you go wrong? And put some pepper on there, and a very popular seasoning that we find around out in the world these days is a lemon pepper seasoning, so why wouldn't that be fine? Now, we have this cavity inside of our bird. We can take some of our herbs that we had from our compound butter, and I also like taking an orange or a piece of citrus. And I'm going to stuff this stuff inside this bird hole right here, this cavity right here. Stuff all that right inside of there. And I'm going to take this orange, I'm going to cut it into little bits, and this is also going to go inside of that chicken's cavity, okay? Stick it right inside of here. So what this is going to do now, this is going to actually perfume the inside of this chicken as he cooks. Stuff it in there all nice and good. Put him back to shape. There we go. Now he's ready to go in the oven. So let's put him in the oven. Depending on the size of your chicken, I would roast him at 350 degrees until he reaches 165 degrees internal temperature. Now that temperature would be measured in the thickest part, and the dark meat of the chicken takes longer to cook than the white meat, so always check your leg and thigh for your temperature first. Okay? So I promised you to show you 2 ways of roasting a chicken. This way I'm going to show you now is what's called a spatch-cocked chicken. And basically all you're doing with a spatch-cocked chicken is cutting out his backbone so he lays down flat. And the advantage of this is that it actually cooks a little bit faster than the whole roasted chicken that's all held together. So once again, I'm going to grab my bird and I'm going to show you how to spatch-cock a chicken. So we have our bird sitting here and we're going to flip him over, if you could leave all the lettuce behind. And we're going to notice where the backbone is. Now here's where the neck is, down here. You can find these. Sometimes they have more neck attached and sometimes they don't. This is a good thing. Now back here where we have the legs and the thighs, we have these beautiful little pieces of meat right here. They're located on the hip, and these are what's called the oysters. And you want to try to leave the oysters on here because they're just 2 little succulent pieces of meat on the back side of the hip here. People who like the dark meat of chicken love the oysters. And you never can buy just the oysters because there's just 2 little bitty pieces and no one's really going to want to pay the price that you would have to pay just to get those oysters. If you think about the price of chicken tenderloin, they're astronomically priced. And so think about the price of that little piece right here. So to do this, you're going to need a good sharp pair of kitchen shears, okay? You're going to start down here at the neck end and you're going to just start cutting down here along the side. Now see this little bulge right here? This is where the oyster is. So when you get there, we're going to cut around it and make sure that we actually can get around it. So I'm just cutting around it right there and then cutting the rest of it out. Okay, my oyster's right here. I want to cut around it and then cut the rest of the spine out. Okay, it's just the backbone. So when you're done, you should have a piece that looks a lot like this. Okay, this you can save for your stock. You can throw it away. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so now when you look at this, we have our chicken, and he can lay out nice and flat. Here are those little oysters right here, and he still has all the bones in him except the backbone. So in order to make this go onto our sheet pan, we're going to take him and we're going to loosen the skin, just like we did with the other one. We're going to put some butter under there. And this time, because we have this opened up down here, we can actually get under the skin very easily through the thigh and the leg. Put some butter underneath here. We're going to put a little bit of orange and herb onto our sheet pan down here. Just put a little bit there. Take some of our fresh herbs. Put some of our fresh herbs under here, because remember, this is all about perfuming the inside of the chicken. Get down there. We're going to take our bird now. I'm going to lift him up. I'm going to lay him down on this pan. Bring him back over here where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now we've got our bird on our pan. Make sure his arms are tucked under his little neck area. We're going to take the legs. We're going to make sure they get back into shape. We're going to give him a little cross right here. Make it look really nice. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this butter. I'm going to stick it under here. I'm going to do a little different technique this time. Try not to get my hands so dirty. Put that knife under there, and then I'm going to spread this around like that. I'm not going to contaminate the rest of that butter. I'm just going to take a clean knife, put another piece under here, and once again, just spread that around. See how important it is to have that butter soft in order to do this? And another knife, just to keep our butter clean. I'm going to put a little bit of this under the thigh. There we go, get under there. A little bit of that under the thigh, and the rest of this I'm going to put under the other thigh. There we go, get under there. There we go. And once again, just spread it out so it goes up and gets underneath all that skin and can really marinate that meat. Once again, we're going to take a little bit of oil him up. And this is just so it has some area for the herbs to actually stick. We're going to take a little bit of our salt, put some salt on top, put a little bit of pepper on top, and he's ready to go into the oven. Now this chicken will take a lot less time to actually cook than the whole roasted chicken, because you can see that he's laid out a little bit, okay? And so he goes on a grill like this too. It's great to grill them like this. It's really terrific. So we don't have to tie this up or anything. Just take it and pop him in the oven. Now, sometimes you need to put him in the oven, especially if you have a convection oven at home. The convection oven is the one that has the fan in it. The paper will fly up, and it'll maybe attach to the skin. And if it does that, it's not going to brown. So take some simple dinner knives and put some dinner knives all the way around it like this. And now that's going to prevent that paper from flapping up and preventing your skin from browning. So now, our spatch-cocked chicken goes into the oven, and he's going to take just a little less time. We still want to get to 165 degrees. Oh yes, when they're done roasting, they're going to be lovely. Now, if you wanted to strain all this liquid out of the bottom, you certainly can, and make gravy out of it, sauce out of it if you'd like. But you can also take this bird and put it on the table. We're going to use a pair of tongs. We're going to use a poultry lifter, which is really kind of a neat thing. It's like a great big old fork. We're going to put them on our plate. Once again, you could use this to make your sauce. And now we're going to take a knife. We're going to cut this string and remove the string from our bird, because we don't want to serve our bird with a string on him. We're not doing dental floss with your meal. And this bird, you can actually leave the stuffing inside of it, because when you cut it, you're going to cut it and leave the bones behind. And there is the whole roasted chicken that you could serve to your family. They would certainly love that. And now for that spatch-cocked chicken. Let's get him out, all right? Ooh, there he is, all done. And so now, in order to serve this, you can also plate this up just like we did the other one. But you can also take it, lift him up, and leave everything behind. Put him on your cutting board. And this is really, really, really super, super, super easy to cut up, because you already have the cut me lines right here. Just cut it right through here. That separates your leg and your thigh. Okay? So now you got your leg and thigh. The thing I really like about spatchcocking is it really makes cutting your chicken up a whole lot easier than trying to figure it out when it's a whole bird. To do your breast, just come right down the center here. Now, if you wanted to leave the bones on, which is always sometimes a good idea, some people like bones, some people don't. And if you don't like the bones on there, then what you're going to do is just peel them off, peel the breasts off as you get ready to serve it. So now I've got a plate here. Once again, loaded up with beautiful vegetables. I'm going to take your breast and wing and your leg and thigh. And so you could even, if you wanted to, put a little bit of chicken sauce, chicken gravy, if you wanted to, on here. If you made it from your drippings that you had in your roasting pan, your spatchcocked chicken isn't going to necessarily have so much of the juice available like the roasted chicken is, but nonetheless, it's just as delicious. So here you go. You have some spatchcocked chicken and you have a whole roasted chicken. So I really do hope that you enjoy these, and I hope you try this out. It's really a wonderful way of being able to plan a meal for several times during the week. So put a chicken in your pot, put them in the oven, spatchcock them, throw them on the grill, and have some fun with this, because these chickens turn out absolutely celebration worthy every single time. So thank you for watching this episode of Charlotte Cooks. I hope to catch you next time. You can grab all of our recipes off of our website at pbscharlotte.org, or you can email me at Pamela, Pamela.roberts, ROBERTS, @cpcc.edu. I'd love to hear from you anytime, and we'll catch you next time on Charlotte Cooks. Thanks for watching.
A production of PBS Charlotte.